Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Report. It is Thursday, January the 9th. I hope everyone is having a fine Thursday afternoon. We have a 10-game slate on our hands this evening, and I'm also in charge of running daily faceoff during warm-ups tonight, so we have a bit of a hard out for today's show. We're going to try to keep this one to an hour, so I'm out of here by 6 p.m. Eastern. So we will jump right in, not waste too much time. Sorry for the delay. Both of us had a bit of a tough afternoon and riding a little bit behind. Before we get into tonight's slate, though, I want to bring up this tweet because this is just basically perfectly encapsulates what happened yesterday with yesterday's slate. Peter Mrazek is 0-6-0 with a 497 goals against average and an 834 save percentage in his last 7 appearances. He hasn't won since November. For some reason, he turns from a shooter-tutor into Tony Esposito when he faces the Colorado Avalanche. That's exactly what happened last night. So shout out to you, Zach. You at least recommended Peter Mrazek. I don't think you had a ton of confidence in that recommendation, but like you did bring up that he has good numbers against the Avs, and for whatever reason, it did work out last night. So yesterday's slate was as gross as could be, and then it ended up being even grosser than we thought it could possibly be. To our credit, I do think that we nailed a lot of the really nice looking low-owned spots. Some of our favorite value plays ended up being pretty good. We mentioned Jesper Boquist. We mentioned Eetu Lesterainen. They both potted a goal or two in Boquist's case. We found the right avenues in some spots. The Washington line changes didn't help. And then Colorado just absolutely playing horrendously. So if you were able to, listen to us a little bit, but also fade Colorado last night, I'm sure you had a big night. But all in all, just a gross slate. Probably should have pulled all of our lineups just because it was so horrendous. But I'm not going to waste too much time. I'm going to be like Jim and try to forget yesterday because yesterday was abysmal. Luckily, we didn't go too big. I think we knew that it was a bad slate, so hopefully you didn't either. Anton Forsberg likely to get the start for the Ottawa Senators as they host the Buffalo Sabres, who will counter with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. It's going to be Elvis Merzlikins for the Columbus Blue Jackets, who will be without Sean Monahan tonight. Joey Daccord was activated from IR, so he's projected to get the start for the Seattle Kraken tonight, although unconfirmed. Andrei Vasilevsky starts the Lightning. It'll be Jeremy Swayman for the Bruins. Alex Nedeljkovic will face Zach's Edmonton Oilers, who will counter with Stuart Skinner. Sam Harrison back between the pipes for the Philadelphia Flyers this evening. It'll be Casey DeSmith for the Dallas Stars. Igor Shesterkin back from injury as well. He will start for the Rangers up against Jacob Markstrom for the New Jersey Devils. Unclear who starts the Carolina Hurricanes, but would be pretty shocked if it's anybody other than Pyotr Kochetkov. Joseph Woll likely to get the nod for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Phillips Gustafsson will face the Colorado Avalanche in the second half of a back-to-back. The Minnesota Wild dealing with a plethora of injuries tonight, though. We'll just get to them really quickly here. They are going to be without Brock Faber. They're also going to be with Jonas Brodin. Those two join Lauko, Spurgeon, and Kaprizov on the injured list. So a very short-handed Minnesota Wild team this evening. Then you've got Joel Hofer getting the start for the St. Louis Blues, projecting to see Lucas Dostal for the Anaheim Ducks. They've been kind of alternating, so it would make sense if it's Dostal tonight. And then Aiden Hill confirmed to get the nod for the Vegas Golden Knights. It will be projected to see Ilya Sorokin for the New York Islanders. Those are your projected or confirmed or likely 20 starters for tonight's 10-game slate. Let's get right into the first game. We've got the Ottawa Senators and the Buffalo Sabres. The Sens minus 149 home favorites up against the Sabres, 3.3 implied total for the Sens. Matchup-wise in this game, pretty good for the entire top 9 of the Ottawa Senators, pretty good for the top 6 of the Buffalo Sabres as well. These two teams kind of feel like they've been trending in opposite directions as of late. The Senators obviously went on that really, really red-hot stretch, kind of a right before Christmas, cooled off a little bit around Christmas, and then have really not played all that great out of the break. The Sabres kind of the opposite, right? They were heading into the Christmas break on like a 9-game losing streak, turned things around a little bit. The offense has been better. The defense has been better. So this is a pretty interesting game. Just, two teams that expected to be in that playoff hunt, two teams that probably aren't necessarily living up to their expectations so far this season. We'll start on the Ottawa Senators side of things. The top line has the best matchup overall on the Ottawa side of things, and they've been playing pretty well with Shane Pinto, Ridley Gregg, and Brady Tkachuk. The additional minutes for Ridley Gregg and Shane Pinto have really upped their floors. They've been pretty solid, and they grade out fairly well tonight. 9th best overall. It's just 14,700. The number one line in terms of ranking under $15,000 tonight. So they look like a pretty interesting play tonight. Shane Pinto still just $3,600. Ridley Gregg just $2,800. They're very, very affordable. They are projected to see a fair bit of ownership. They do come in as the third highest owned projected line on the slate, thanks to our friends at rotogrinders.com. So Ottawa 1, definitely seeing some ownership. Ottawa 2, about half the amount of ownership, but also not quite as good of a play. But they've got Giroux, Stützle, Batherson there at 15,300. For them, the matchup's not nearly as good. They're going to not face Buffalo 1 quite as much as Ottawa 1, and that's the line you really want to target for the Sabres. So despite having pretty good offensive metrics, to me, I think it's pretty clear that if I'm playing Ottawa tonight, it's going to be the top line, not the second line. Better matchup, better offensive metrics, and cheaper salary. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you here. It really looks like Ottawa 1 is in a bit of a smash spot here tonight. Obviously, Brady Tkachuk, the big driver there on that top line, just continues to be so rock solid. 12.7 shots on goal per hour of ice time over his last 20. The buddy just loves to fire the pill, scoring at a good clip, generating a lot of really high-quality scoring chances. And Pinto and Greg are getting quality looks as well here, and we're starting to see these numbers for this line as a whole start to climb increasingly higher and higher. And I'm going to be in on him here, man. I really like him as a value option here tonight. Even though you got $8,300 Brady Tkachuk, the other two guys here really helped to kind of bring that price tag for the full line down. And I got a lot of interest in that. Tkachuk has had success against the Sabres in the past, 5 goals and 14 points in 18 games. But both Pinto and Greg have a goal and 4 points in 5 games against Buffalo as well here. So they look to be in a really great spot. 20 max for me tonight. I think I'm going to be over the field on Ottawa 1. I think I'm comfortable getting up to around 15% on them here. Get a little bit of leverage over the field in what seems to be a nice spot. I don't hate the idea of mixing in some of this second line as well. It's nice to see Claude Giroux back up there. It feels like he's at his best, and this line as a whole is at his best when he's up there. So, Stützle and Batherson, it feels like haven't had the highest of floor as of late in terms of their shot volume and stuff like that. But when you see these three guys together, 78.9 shot attempts per hour of ice time, that's a huge number. So I would expect those numbers to be increased here tonight on this slate. I'm comfortable playing both of these lines. Obviously, Ottawa 2, you're getting maybe a little bit more leverage off of that Ottawa 1 chalk, but Ottawa 1 does look to be a great play here.
Yeah, like Ottawa 1's a little higher owned, but I mean at 10%, it's nothing that's going to concern me too much. Ridley Gregg and Shane Pinto, the floors have been fairly steady for both those guys as well. About 2 or 3 shots per game over their last handful of games since playing on this top line. So you get a reasonable floor at that $14,000 price tag as well. If you take a look at the raw projections in terms of value tonight, Ottawa 1 grades out pretty well there as well at just $14,700. So raw projections like them. The charts likes them quite a bit. On the Buffalo Sabres side of things, the Yuri Kulich injury has made their lineup shuffle a little bit. You're still going to see Zucker, Cousins, and Thompson on the top line. Then you got Peterka, McLeod, and Tuck on the second line. Jason Zucker has really just been scorching hot for the better part of 2 months, which is not a sentence that I expected to utter much during the 2025 calendar year, but he's been playing tremendously well, still just $4,400. Dylan Cousins seems to be finding his game a little bit since being moved up to this top line with Tage Thompson as well. $4,200, really affordable price tag there. And then Tage Thompson, $7,200. The shot volume, had been kind of a growing concern for him, but he's been a little bit better in recent games as well. So this is a line that I definitely have some interest in. And to be quite frank, I was expecting a little bit more ownership for Buffalo 1 tonight. Anton Forsberg has given up at least 3 goals in 7 consecutive starts. Really has not been all that sharp at all. So I actually, I do like Ottawa 1, but I have a lot more interest, I think, in this Buffalo side of things. I bet Buffalo money line tonight as well. I think these two teams are fairly similar when they're both kind of playing at their best. And I think Buffalo's been the better of the two teams as of late. The ownership is much lower. And just to give you an idea of what Tage Thompson's done in his last 3 games, the shot volume we talked about being horrendous. He had, 14 shots in 10 games from the middle of December through the first game of January. And then in his last 3 games, he has 4 shots, 5 shots, and 6 shots on goal, 15 shots on goal in his last 3. So he's literally topped what he did in his previous 10 games. It's been a lot better for him. So I feel a little bit more comfortable, and honestly, the price tags come down. So they look like they're in a really, really nice spot tonight. And then Dylan Cousins, 2 goals, 7 points in his last 10 games as well. Starting to figure it out, and his price tag is at a point where it's super affordable. So if you kind of take a look at the grand scheme of things here among this top 15 lines, in terms of ownership, this is the second lowest line in the top 15. So yeah, they look like they're in a pretty good leverage spot tonight. I like Buffalo 1. It's probably the only line in this Buffalo side of things that has a lot of my interest. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, I agree with you here. I was a little surprised to see the ownership this low as well. I think they're in a great spot here going up against the Senators. I like the over here in this game. I think this is going to be a fast paced, kind of high flying game here. Pretty strong matchup for this top line here. And, the offense has been there, as you mentioned, as of late, too. Seems like a great way to get some good leverage in a game that's got a pretty high pace score. I like this spot for Buffalo 1 for sure. I faded Buffalo 2 the other night and they went off and scored a couple of goals. I'm probably going to end up fading them again here on this slate, but I could see why. Maybe a mini stack there, JJ Peterka and Alex Tuck has some appeal to people. I don't hate the idea of getting there. Just not sure if I will myself in my 20 max here tonight. But yeah, Buffalo 1, I think I'll be over the field for sure. Like even just at 5%, you're basically doubling the field ownership on a full stack for these guys. So I don't mind getting there whatsoever.
Yeah, Buffalo 2 didn't have a terrible night the other night against the Capitals. It wasn't great, wasn't terrible. They were fine. JJ Peterka's shot volume's kind of been disappointing so far this season, and the floor probably not quite what you would expect out of JJ Peterka. So I don't mind getting to them, but I'm mostly Buffalo 1 for me. Okay, let's turn our attention to the power play here really quickly, as I blew that up way too big. The Senators have the 14th ranked power play tonight, the 23rd ranked power play going up against the 8th ranked PK over the last 10 games. The Sabres look much better on the power play, third best power play advantage, 7th best power play up against 23rd ranked PK. So yeah, another reason to kind of like Buffalo 1. You've got Tage Thompson on that top power play unit. You also have Jason Zucker up there as well. So very, very interested in Buffalo 1. Any final thoughts before we move to Columbus and Seattle?
No, let's move it along.
Okay, Columbus are plus 109 road our home underdogs, 3.3 implied total for the Seattle Kraken, minus 120 favorites. Obviously the fact that there's no Sean Monahan in this game for the Blue Jackets is a little bit, probably the reason that the line has moved so steadily towards the Seattle Kraken. But, we know that this Columbus team is a whole different breed on home ice. The matchups here pretty much just average for the Columbus side of things, pretty good matchups across the board for the Seattle offense. But, this game to me without Monahan doesn't draw a ton of my interest. But the general public still loves Columbus 1, and I do kind of get it. Voronkov and Marchenko have been unbelievable. I talked about it on my season-long fantasy podcast last night. Since December 15th, I believe it is, Dmitry Voronkov literally leads the NHL in goals with 10. He's just been that good, and Marchenko's just been an absolute dog. Going to be a 35-goal scorer this year. And I'm curious to see what happens without Sean Monahan on that top line, how much they actually lose, how much it's, it really revolves around Monahan. Fantilli moving up. He's got great shot volume as well. A talented young player in his own right. $3,200 brings the price tag of this line down. I don't know if I necessarily trust it. We've seen this trio play together a lot, mostly last year, some this year, and the underlying metrics aren't that impressive. So losing Monahan is definitely a dagger. I'm going to have exposure to this line just because they have been so hot. The matchup's pretty solid. They're 15,500, but I'm not sure I'm going to get to the field necessarily as the chalkiest line on the slate. Still only projected for 11.3% ownership. I think I'm mostly interested in Fantilli one-offs than anything at $3,200. I really like that price tag for him. Probably going to play 19 minutes tonight, something like that at that price tag. Hard to find cheap centers that are quality. So I like Fantilli a lot. I like this line still, but I'm probably not going to be jamming them in like I have. I don't know if they quite have that massive slate breaking upside without Sean Monahan. And then you factor in that, yes, Zach Werenski, we were all over him the other day. He does play much better on home ice, but now he's up to $8,800. It's just kind of gotten completely out of hand to stack this Columbus team. And it's kind of a no one to hold him, no one to fold him moment for me tonight. And to me, I'll probably be off that chalk a little bit. How about you?
Yeah, I can totally understand why. And I think initially that was kind of where I was leaning here as well. They grade out as the 17th best line to target here, so just outside of the top 15 that I'm usually keeping an eye on for full stacking lines. I think what I'm going to try and do here in my 20 max is probably have like one full stack of Columbus 1, and then I'm probably going to have a couple of like mini stacks of like Werenski Fantilli, Werenski Marchenko, Werenski Voronkov, and hope that somewhere in there you find a good mix. Obviously Columbus is on home ice here tonight, so that's definitely playing to the benefit of these Blue Jackets guys. We talked about the home and road splits here ahead of their last game on the road against Pittsburgh, and we saw this Columbus side, flop in a pretty chalky spot for them. So I'm a little bit tepid about them not having Sean Monahan up there. I do agree with you on that. In the same breath, like it feels like some of this ownership, especially from a full stack perspective, maybe is just a little bit of an overreaction here to Fantilli bumping up some value. In the same breath, $15,500 to full stack this line really isn't all that expensive whatsoever. So I can see why it's drawing the ownership that it is here. But like I said, I think I'm going to come in under on a full stack here of Columbus One and kind of meet the field in terms of the individual player ownership here with these one-offs, because all of these guys correlate on that top power play unit as well. In the last 10 games, Columbus has the number one ranked penalty kill in the league. They have the fifth best matchup tonight, but they're also going up against a Seattle team that just does not take penalties whatsoever, 2.2 times shorthanded per game. So they're not going to have a lot of opportunity there, but the correlation at 5-on-5 is nice. A little bit of power play correlation as well in a good spot if they can get the power plays. I don't mind it attacking it that way. Probably coming in and avoiding the rest of this Columbus lineup here. The Seattle side of things, though, Brock, like I've got some interest here in going to this Seattle one line. We've talked about them recently, and you take a look at these line stats, and they've been, fairly solid here, all things considering. And with each passing game, this sample size is starting to grow, and we can start to feel a little bit better about what we're seeing from this Seattle one line.
Yeah, I don't typically play Seattle. I don't mind them tonight. They grade out 12th best at 11,200. They're seeing a 5% ownership. Most of it's coming in on Jaden Schwartz, which is understandable. They'll probably be in the player pool. I don't know how much I'll actually get to. I just don't like playing Seattle that much. I don't think there's enough upside there with this team. But yeah, just to correct one thing you said that Columbus has the number one penalty kill over the last 10 games. I mean, I know you meant power play. Just wanted to correct that for the listeners. Overall, fifth best power play advantage on the slate. Would be better, like you said, if Seattle took a few more penalties. And then now, obviously, the loss of Sean Monahan is the benefit of Adam Fantilli. He will also be moving up to the top power play unit with Voronkov and Marchenko. So fully correlating there. It's also worth mentioning that Cole Sillinger is a game time decision with illness. So if he goes down, they're going to be without two of their top three centers. We could see Fantilli just play an insane amount of ice time this evening. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to get to too much Seattle, but I don't mind Seattle one as a value option at 11,200. I think there's probably some better options that we'll get to here in a minute. Tampa Bay hosts the Boston Bruins, 3.3 implied total for the Lightning, minus 164 home favorites, 2.6 implied total for the Bruins. Matchups in this game, really, really good for Tampa Bay one. They're going to see a heavy dose of the top six of the Bruins, mostly the second line, that Lindholm, Marchand line, which has been pretty poor defensively this season. They've done a good job keeping the puck out of their net, but only just basically based on pure luck, because they've given up 36 scoring chances, 16 high danger chances. We know this is a Tampa team that can get you scorching hot. This top line has been super, super talented and super, super good all year. The offensive metrics are terrific. The second line, the offensive metrics not quite as good. They're going to see a lot of that Pasternak line. The Pasternak line's been, interestingly enough, their defensive metrics are a lot better, but they've actually given up more goals. So, I don't know how much. I love Tampa 2 on pretty much any slate, but they grade out 24th night. Probably not a night to get to them too much. Tampa 1, though, grades as the number one line to target on the entire slate. They've got They've got the second best 5v5 score. They've got the second best power play score on the slate, and then they have the number one projections on the slate. So they grade out tremendously well across the board and are seeing just 6% ownership. They come in, the power play is still struggling, 22nd over their last 10 games, but they go up against the 27th ranked penalty kill. So a pretty good matchup here to kind of get back on track for Tampa heading back home here tonight. Really, really interested in Tampa 1. They're outrageously expensive at 25,600, but we've already mentioned a couple lines, between 12 or 11 and $15,000 that you can definitely mix in with Tampa 1 and build some solid lineups still. So looks like a really, really good spot for the Lightning here tonight. The Bruins coming off, a couple of bad performances in a row as well. Hopefully that continues tonight against the Lightning, and we can get some leverage on them at 6.7%. So Tampa 1 is probably the only line I'm really targeting this game. Maybe a little bit of Tampa 2. Don't really have any interest in the Bruins. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you here. Full stop. Tampa 1 looks like they're in a great spot here tonight. I got a ton of interest in them. I'm comfortable getting weird with my lineup, so I'm probably going to be double, maybe even triple the field on the ownership here for Tampa 1. 6.7% projected for a full stack right now. I don't mind mixing it up here and try and find ways to get different. And I think getting some leverage on this Tampa side, specifically Tampa 1, is a really great way to go. You mentioned the Boston Bruins, 5-game losing streak for them right now. They just got embarrassed 4-0 on home ice against my Edmonton Oilers, where they looked absolutely lifeless here on Tuesday night. I mean, I was really shocked to see how poor the Bruins were looking in that game. So now it's a tough matchup again against a high-flying Tampa team with a really, really talented top line. Fire me up here on this Tampa 1 side. Keep it pretty simple on this one for me.
Yeah, if you you can basically build around like Tampa 1 if you want a full stack 2 lines. Tampa 1 and like Seattle 1 is kind of where you need to start if you want a full stack, a couple lines. Like that $11,000 range is where you would need to be in and about there. So, Tampa 1, Seattle 1 doesn't, based on the charts, looks like a pretty strong play. Some other lines, that are a little bit cheaper that you can mix in. Obviously some good value plays as well. But just some news here from our guy Beebs. Kochetkov starts for versus Toronto. No other lineup changes for the Hurricanes. Thank you, Beebs. Okay, next game we've got the Pittsburgh Penguins and your Edmonton Oilers. Now, just remember, Zach, I got to be out of here by 6 o'clock, so don't talk too much about the Oilers. I know you want to, but I'm going to have to reel you in a little bit tonight. 3.8 implied total tonight, though, the highest on the slate, so I could see why you'd want to go off a little bit. Minus 217 road favorites in Pittsburgh. The matchups for the Oilers side, very, very good. Top line going up against that Crosby line. We talked about that Crosby line being awesome offensively, defensively not so much. Not quite as good of a matchup for the Edmonton Oilers. It does look like the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be without Evgeny Malkin for a second consecutive game, although he's officially a game time decision. Most of the reports coming out of the morning skate suggest that he's going to sit out another one. So still not in love with the offensive metrics here from this Connor McDavid line without Zach Hyman. You're watching more than me, at least the Oilers. Do you feel that these metrics are not an accurate representation of what you're seeing on the ice, or is that line still kind of struggling to get things going without Hyman?
I think that they're looking just fine out there as far as I'm concerned. I think you're going to see a dip in the numbers without Hyman up there and Connor Brown up there. But Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 4 goals and 5 points in his last 5 games. So he's been red hot right now. 5 goals, 8 points in his last 10. So he's on a roll right now. This looks to be another great spot for the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid always had success against the Pittsburgh Penguins, 9 goals and 27 points in 15 games against them. So clearly a spot that McDavid loves to play in, and Draisaitl's had success too going up against the Penguins. So I've got a lot of interest here in this Oilers side. It shouldn't shock anybody that that's the case, but Nugent-Hopkins to me specifically at $4,700, he's only drawing 4.4% ownership here tonight, which I think is just too low based on the goal scoring that he's had as of late here. Still playing up there on the top line, still on the top power play unit, which feels like they're starting to kind of chug along here at a little bit of a better pace. The Oilers got the 6th best power play in the last 10 games, 4th best matchup, although the Penguins do have a pretty solid penalty kill here as of late, ranking 2nd. So as it is with usual for me in the Edmonton Oilers, I've got a lot of interest in them here tonight on this slate. That's kind of going to be the way that I'm attacking it as always. They're not drawing a ton of ownership or anything like that, but their salaries are really modest from a full stack perspective. $17,300 for Edmonton 1, $14,700 for Edmonton 2, drawing under 8% ownership for both of these lines. Fire me up in what seems like a good spot.
So, yeah, to me, the Oilers are kind of always in play if that power play is in a good spot. And as you mentioned, it is. They're the 6th best power play going up against a 24th ranked penalty kill over the last 10 games. 4th best power play matchup. We liked them the other night against the Bruins for this, very similar reasons. And they were fine. You texted me during that game. You're like, shit, I forgot to mention Edmonton 3 the other night. I felt like they were in a sneaky spot. I think maybe they were probably more of a small slate play like we had the other night. Do you feel like you want to run it back with them at all tonight? They had a pretty solid night the other night. The matchup tonight's pretty good against the bottom 6 of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Thank you for the reminder. I appreciate
welcome.
that. See, good looking out for me there.
Gotcha.
This is a really interesting line for me. The line stats don't really represented right now, but Jeff Skinner's on a little bit of a streak right now, point in 3 consecutive games. Adam Henrique just had 2 goals against the Boston Bruins there. You mix in Zach Hyman down there, who, as we all know, is a 50-plus goal guy for the Edmonton Oilers last year. And I think you got a really interesting pivot option here. It's a really kind of risky play, I think, because if they're not scoring, you're not probably going to be cashing much. But Jeff Skinner still gives a fairly solid floor with 8.1 shots on goal per hour. Zach Hyman's still shooting the puck a lot, 9.8 per hour over his last 20. I think if you're looking to get different, looking to get weird, $11,900 to full stack these guys, I don't mind getting down there either tonight.
Most of my interest in this game comes on the Oilers' second line. They just continue to play incredibly well. They were unbelievably dominant against the Bruins again the other night. They're still just $14,700. Podkolzin had 5 shots in that game, just 2% ownership. Draisaitl's been literally maybe the best player in the league this year. Just $8,500 is still too cheap for him. Victor Arvidsson's got 7 points in his last 7 games at $3,500. The value's too great for as much upside as this line has. The underlying metrics absolutely love them tonight. Again, their matchup maybe a little bit worse, but it's not terrible. This is still a Pittsburgh second line that it doesn't have Malkin, is giving up 3.0 goals against per 60. So a lot of interest for me in Edmonton too. I think we would be silly not to talk about Pittsburgh 1. I think you could pretty confidently fade the rest of this Penguins roster, but Pittsburgh 1's been unbelievable for basically a few months straight now. They've rarely taken a night off. The matchup for them is not great. They're going to see a ton of that Connor McDavid line where their offensive metrics may not be quite as good as we're used to seeing from them, but the defensive metrics are still really, really good. But, the Pittsburgh Penguins top line still grades out 10th best tonight. My issue with them is I actually faded them against the Blue Jackets just because they've been so good for such a long stretch here that their price tag has just gone out of control. $21,400 feels a little expensive. I don't feel great about paying $6,900 for Rickard Rakell or $7,000 for Brian Ross. In a great matchup, sure. A smaller slate, maybe, but I just don't love this matchup. The power play matchup is horrendous, despite how good that power play's been. So I'm probably off the Penguins tonight, but they have been red hot. They're worth mentioning. They're not seeing basically any ownership tonight. So, I talked about who was it? I can't remember who it was. Ottawa or Buffalo 1 being one of the lower owned lines in the top 15. The Penguins are the second lowest owned line in the top 10 tonight. So definitely some leverage there if they continue to stay hot, but that price tag is worrisome for me. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I've always got a little bit of interest in Pittsburgh 1. I mean, they're just a really talented trio playing together. Crosby's done well in these matchups before too. Rickard Rakell, he's had success as well. Crosby, 5 goals, 22 points, 24 games against the Oilers. Rakell, 12 goals, 27 points, 34 games. So I might mix him in at 5% on a full stack, just to try to find a way to get a little bit of a low ownership on a line, but it wouldn't be going too crazy with him.
Worth reminding our viewers that Stuart Skinner has been absolutely excellent as of late. Last 13 starts, he's gone 10-2-1 with a .928 save percentage. So another reason why I don't have a particularly lot of interest in the Pittsburgh side of things. Tonight, we've got the Philadelphia Flyers and the Dallas Stars. The Stars are minus 150 road favorites, 3.4 implied total, 2.8 implied total for the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers were a team that we definitely had some interest in playing for a little bit, and now it's gotten just to the point where the way the lineup is constructed, the line stats are pretty terrible, and it literally just leaves us talking about Philadelphia 3 pretty much every single time. They've had the best offensive metrics and the best defensive metrics on this team for a few weeks now. They draw a fairly solid matchup tonight. They've been matching up against the opposition's best for the most part as of late, so we'll see a lot of that Hintz-Robertson line tonight. Hintz-Robertson line, very good offensive metrics. The defensive metrics are so-so, so going to be kind of an interesting matchup there. Philadelphia 3 always just kind of a total punt play at $8,600. One of the only lines under 9K that you can even really consider seeing no ownership. So I always like them as kind of just a pure punt. And the fact that Casey DeSmith gets the start tonight makes me a little bit more interested in them. But the way the rest of this lineup is configured, it really takes me away from having a whole lot of Philadelphia interest tonight. The Stars obviously pretty good defensively as well. On the flip side, the Stars have been great. The second line, the offensive metrics are unbelievable. The top line's been unreal as well. They do draw a bit of a tough matchup tonight. The Flyers have been very, very good defensively. John Tortorella has stuck with these lines for a few straight games. Then while the offensive metrics aren't great, the defensive metrics are super solid. And he's probably pretty fine with that. So I do think it's a little difficult, to get to Dallas tonight. They don't grade out all that well, despite having unreal offensive metrics. Dallas 2 down at 16th, Dallas 1 all the way at 27th. On the power play, they do go up against the 32nd ranked PK, though. So if you want to look for a bright spot here, it is the fact that the Stars have the second best power play advantage on the night. Check out the Flyers, huh? 32nd ranked power play, 32nd ranked PK. You just got to love it. So if you want to just take a quick look here at the Dallas power plays, it's a kind of a mix of the top two lines. You've got Ben and Wyatt Johnson together. You got Hinson Robertson together with Heiskanen. Thomas Harley, always a strong play. He was massive for me the other night. Looks like a good play again tonight. Dadonov has been on a bit of a heater as well. If you want to full stack that top line, I think including Dadonov is fine. He's projected for just 2.4% ownership. So I probably am going to be around the field here tonight with Dallas in about 5%. I'm going to mix them in, but it just doesn't look like a super great environment tonight. So minimal interest in this game for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I can understand why. I think I've got a little bit more interest in this Dallas side here. I think these guys are just a really talented bunch. And, the offensive numbers have continued to remain solid for the top six here for the Dallas Stars. You couple some strong line stats with a great power play matchup here tonight for them. And I think that's why I'm comfortable getting over the field here on this Dallas Stars side. It's not going to be anything crazy over the field for me, but I think getting up to 10% each on Dallas 1 and Dallas 2 is a fairly reasonable thing to do here tonight. At the end of the day, goaltending continues to be somewhat of an issue here in Philadelphia. You take a look at Samuel Ersson getting the start tonight, 19 games played on the season, 884 save percentage, negative 9.1 goals saved above expected. That's the lowest goals saved above expected mark of any goaltender on the slate here tonight. So I think for me, that's why I'm going to be mixing in a little bit more Dallas 1, trying to get some leverage on a good team.
I mean, yeah, to your point here, like you take a look at the expected goals against numbers, obviously outstanding for the Flyers, but the goaltending still struggling. The actual goal numbers are pretty poor. So, yeah, that's the reason to have some interest in Dallas. But yeah, for me, probably not going too crazy either. Okay, the Rangers and the Devils. It is Jack Hughes night in New York. He is basically the mayor of New York. He just absolutely owns this New York Rangers team. 3.5 implied total, minus 154 road favorites. Igor Shesterkin is back, but it hasn't seemed to matter for Jack Hughes in recent games. The matchups here for the Devils are outstanding. The top line, second line, third line, fourth line does not matter. Also the highest event game of the night. The Rangers don't do a whole lot of hard matching, so all matchups are kind of created equally here for the Devils. When you take a look at the offensive metrics for this team, the top line continues to just have unbelievable offensive metrics. They've been just sensational all season long. A little bit better as long as Stefan Nation is up there. The second line, though, nothing to scoff at either. They've been tremendous. Then you factor in that Jack Hughes is again the mayor of New York. Probably gives me a little bit more interest in New Jersey 2 tonight than New Jersey 1, just from kind of a narrative perspective, but they both grade out just ridiculously well. You've got New Jersey 1 at third, New Jersey 2 at number 4 tonight. So, I've probably played Dallas or New Jersey 1 a little bit more than New Jersey 2 so far this year. The price always kind of dictates that for me. They're always a little bit cheaper. I love the value you get from Stefan Nation at $4,400 on that top power play unit, but I love the Hughes Bratt mini stack, especially with Bratt kind of down to $6,800. Just 2.3% ownership on Bratt tonight too is really, really intriguing. So I love both of these lines. I feel pretty comfortable getting way over the field on New Jersey 1 and New Jersey 2. You take a look at the power play matchup here as well, the number one power play matchup on the slate. So a lot to like both at 5v5 and on the power play with New Jersey tonight. And the ownership is extremely modest. If we sort here, New Jersey 2 finds themselves about the 11th highest owned line, and then the 7th highest owned line for New Jersey 1. So to me, these are the two of the lines that I'm definitely getting north of the field on. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you here. I'll be over the field on this Devils side pretty handsomely, I think. New Jersey 1, the third best line to target. New Jersey 2, the fourth best line to target overall. The prices are pretty reasonable for full stacking these lines. I don't mind mixing in a little Andre Palat on the second line there. 1.3 goals per hour over his last 20 games. Modest success against the Rangers in his career, 5 goals, 15 points in 28 games. It's no Jack Hughes, but when you're playing on a line with Jack Hughes against the Rangers, Rangers. Palat is going to be live for some points here as well tonight. He's also only projecting for like 2.9% ownership here. So I think that's a really nice way to get different. So again, don't mind getting over the field here on this Devils side of things. What's interesting too, from like a line stats perspective, like you could also argue that like, especially New Jersey 1 is actually underperforming right now. Only 3 goals for per hour versus 4.1 expected. So I don't mind getting over the field there as well. All 3 of those guys still scoring at good clips, just not matching those expected goal numbers. So don't mind this spot whatsoever. I'll be over the field and probably going to mix in a little bit of this New York 1 line here too as well. Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere. High event game here tonight on this slate. So I don't mind that. They continue to be the one line to really target here, I think, on a regular basis in New York. And they seem to be in a good spot again as the 6th best line to target.
Yeah, I mean, they have 3 goals in 10 minutes the other night. So yeah, they're a line that's just played tremendously. I have a little bit of concern tonight that the matchup is not great. The Devils have been really, really good defensively this year. But yeah, I'll probably mix them in at about 5%. Don't have an overwhelming amount of interest in the Rangers again tonight. I was dying. I just looked down and like, who's texting me mid-show? My phone was going off, and then I looked at it and it was you. So that's hilarious. Yeah, Devils look tremendous tonight. Again, the power play for the Rangers ranks 18th tonight overall out of 27th best power play up against 6th ranked PK. So not a particularly lot of interest for me. But as to your credit, the Rangers top line still grades out 6th best tonight. So don't mind mixing them in. What do you think about a New Jersey 5-man stack on DK? Love just hammering a 5-man, 6-man stack. Those onslaught stacks are super fun. I do them more on smaller slates, but yeah, I don't mind it at all. If it was the only lineup I was building tonight, I would maybe shy away from that a little bit, kind of pigeonholing yourself there. But yeah, like if you're building multiple lineups, I absolutely love that play. A full power play stack is absolutely in the cards for me. And if you want to get crazy, 6-man stack them. No issues with that at all. Zach, I know you're a fan of an onslaught as well.
Yeah, I love me a good onslaught, especially around a power play. Just the one last thing that I'll say about this game, specifically Artemi Panarin. We want to talk about Jack Hughes owning the Rangers. Well, Panarin's owned the Devils in his career. 14 goals, 44 points in 35 games played against New Jersey. So just another reason for me as to why I'm going to be getting some exposure to that Rangers top line.
Yeah, I actually reminded me. I did want to bring up Jack Hughes' numbers against the Rangers. 15 goals, 26 points in 22 games against the Rangers. The Carolina Hurricanes host the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. The Hurricanes, pretty sizable home favorites here against the Leafs. Minus 175, 3.3 implied total for the Hurricanes, 2.5 implied total for the Maple Leafs. Matchups in this one, pretty bleak across the board outside of the 2 top lines going head-to-head. Looks like that's going to be a high-event matchup. The rest of the game, not so much. Going to see a lot of the Jordan Stahl line against the Tavares line. Basically takes the Tavares line out of the game at 5v5. The second lines, the Kotkaniemi line is going to go up against the Domi line. Both those lines have been pretty solid defensively as well. So it basically looks like just the 2 top lines going head-to-head. Could be fireworks tonight. Toronto 1, man. This is obviously not the best matchup ever against the Hurricanes as a whole, but if they're going to be hard matched against this Aho line, which boy, oh boy, does it look like that's the case. I mean, this matchup is good. And Toronto 1's been red hot. Matthews, since returning, has been unbelievable. And they're coming in at Matthews 2.8% ownership. Nyes and Marner projected for 0. That's like the second time in a row we've seen Nyes at 0. But Marner at 0 as well. I'm not 100% sure there. But at 0.9% ownership, like regardless of if it's 0 or not, it's going to be low. And I don't mind this matchup in this spot for Toronto 1 at all. I think that they're in a really nice leverage spot. And like, let's just call it 2.5%. Like, I'm more than fine playing a lot of them at 2.5%. So we talked about it recently with Mitch Marner. He's had an unbelievable year. And at $7,700, I don't think that quite does him justice. Like, to me, like if you just look at the price tags here of like Mark Stone and Mitch Marner nearly being identical. Yeah, yes, Mark Stone's had a great year, but I feel much better on a night-to-night basis rolling with Mitch Marner, if we're not paying attention to matchups. So I like that price tag. 21,700 feels fine for how good this line has been and can be. And yeah, the matchup looks good. If they're going head-to-head with a Carolina 1 line that's giving up 5.6 goals against per 60 and a healthy amount of scoring chances, sign me up there. In terms of the power play in this game, not really great on either side. But Zach, like, this ownership is pretty wild for Toronto one. They're usually like the complete opposite. They're like usually chalky, even though the spot is absolutely terrible. Tonight it's just the total opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. My rule with Toronto One is that I come under the field when they're projected for heavy chalk. When they're not projected for a lot of ownership, I like to get over the field. This is a spot that I'm going to be getting over the field on because, again, like you said, if the matchup is right here, they look to be in a great spot. One thing that I do in my own version of my charts that I build every day, I kind of give a score where I combine the matchup score and the line stats, just looking at a specific spot. They grade it as the fourth best line on the entire slate to target from that metric that I use. They're fifth best overall in your 5-on-5 stats. They look to be in just a great spot here where I'll be getting over the field. And, Peter Kochetkov, like, it's not like he's been like lights out tremendous or anything like that this season. He's only got a 902 save percentage. Big thing there is that he just doesn't see a whole ton of volume, only facing 23 or making 23 saves per hour of ice time this season. I don't mind this spot whatsoever for Toronto One. I'll probably mix in a little bit of Carolina One here as well. They also seem to be in a pretty good spot, but pretty much going to be comfortable staying away from the rest of this game here.
Yeah, Kochetkov, to your point, his last 5 games, he's given up at least 3 goals in 4 of his last 5 games, 897 save percentage. Both Matthews and Marner also north of a point per game in their career against the Hurricanes. Talked a lot about Toronto One here. The Carolina side of things looks okay as well. I don't know how much I'm going to really get there tonight, though. It's really spread out, the offense here. Like, Jack Roslovic at $3,800 always feels like a fine one-off play if you want to save some salary. He's literally, I think, tied for second in the NHL in 5v5 goals this year. He's been really good. But the rest, this team just, I don't really know how I'm going to get there to the rest of this lineup. So I don't mind Carolina One. Again, that matchup looks like it could be fireworks, but I prefer the Toronto side of things in that matchup. But I don't mind getting some Aho, Jarvis, and Roslovic in a small capacity, but I'd rather have the leverage on the Toronto side, in my opinion. How about you on the Hurricanes?
Yeah, I agree with you too. I'm not going to get to Carolina 2. Maybe get down to a little Carolina 3. Like, if you're looking to find a really cheap spot, Martin Stahl, I don't mind playing them as a mini stack. Jordan Stahl specifically has had success against Toronto in his career, 16 goals, 34 points in 49 games played. The matchup score isn't anything to write home about, but they do have Svechnikov down there on the line. We know how talented he is offensively. They do grade out, as you highlight there, the 28th best line to target. I'll probably have a Stahl Martinuk mini stack just to save some salary on maybe like a Devil's Onslaught or something like that. But there's some other ways that you can go there for sure. But yeah, nothing too crazy on this Carolina side for me. And even with the top line, I mean, they're just not generating a ton of offense right now. And the floors are fairly low in terms of the shot volume. I think they're an okay play, but I don't think I'll be getting anything over the field at like 5%.
To your point about Carolina 3, they always have awesome offensive numbers, but when Svechnikov's on that line, they do have a little bit more juice, and we actually see the actual goals numbers matching the expected goals numbers, which is not the case when they've got like Will Carrier or somebody like that down there. So they do have a little bit more offensive flair with Svechnikov, also projected for 27% of the ice time. Let's move on to Colorado and Minnesota. I really like the Avs tonight in a bit of a bounce back spot tonight. Obviously, last night they still put up a ton of shots, but Peter Mrazek just apparently has their number. But the main reason that I've got interest in them tonight is the fact that, as I mentioned at the top, no Brodin, no Spurgeon, no Faber on the blue line. You're looking at a blue line of Middleton, Bogosian, Merrill, Declan Chisholm, Travis Dermott, and David Jiricek making his Minnesota debut. Not a whole lot of talent on this blue line. Probably safe to say that it's maybe not much worse than what the Chicago Blackhawks iced last night, but the Blackhawks got some solid young defensemen where I have a hard time envisioning this Minnesota team really slowing the Avs down tonight, especially I would imagine a pretty pissed off Avalanche team as well. The matchups in this game, pretty good for Colorado One. 97.5. They're going to go head to head with that top line. That Rossi line's been going head to head with the opposition's number 1 line as of late. and haven't been doing too poor of a job in terms of still generating offense, but it's just been extremely high event. The McKinnon line does much of the same. So could certainly see some fireworks in this matchup. Obviously, the kind of one concern you'd have on either side is that Philip Gustafson's been among the top 3 goalies in the NHL in the entire league this year. Mackenzie Blackwood may be the number 1 goalie in the league since being traded to Colorado. He's just been absolutely lights out. So the goaltending on both sides is tremendous, but I still like Colorado 1 to kind of bounce back in a really good matchup against a very banged up Minnesota blue line. You talk about it being outrageously chalky a night ago. Obviously, the matchup was a little bit cushier, but now it's just 5% ownership on the second half of back-to-back. Seems very intriguing to me. So I'm going to be getting back to Colorado 1. I forced some Colorado 2 in yesterday because of the matchup. I don't know how much I'm going to do of that tonight. They also grade out with a pretty good matchup score, but they're going up against the Joel Eriksson line, which has historically been pretty good defensively. So mostly just Colorado 1 for me in this game. Maybe mix in some Minnesota 1. Marco Rossi has been red hot. They grade out 7th best. They're seeing a lot more ownership, though, and I feel better about the Colorado side of things personally. How about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think this is a huge overreaction from the market in terms of this ownership coming in on this Minnesota side of things. I mean, 10.5% for the top line, 6.2% coming in on that second line. Joel Eriksson seeing, 11% ownership here on this slate tonight. I don't buy it whatsoever. Do I think that they should draw some ownership? Yeah, I do. I mean, I think they've got, especially that top line, an okay matchup. Their line stats have been solid as of late here, but this does to me just feel like a huge overreaction from the market. Getting Colorado 1 at 4.5% ownership is the second best line to target here on the slate. Count me in on this because I'm going to be well over the field on Colorado 1 tonight. You talk about Philip Gustafson. He has been absolutely incredible this season. Never been good against the Colorado Avalanche. 7 games played against the Avs in his career. He's got 1 win, a 391 goals against average, and an 893 save percentage. So he's clearly had some struggles against the Colorado Avalanche. And in the same breath, the top line, specifically McKinnon and Rantanen, have lit up Minnesota in the past. McKinnon has 21 goals and 59 points in 47 games played, and Mikko Rantanen has 15 goals and 37 points in 34 games. You want to talk about planting a flag tonight? I'm planting it on Colorado 1. Get me well over the field on them in what I think is a great bounce back spot for this team tonight.
Yeah, I just looked at last year's matchup. This is their first meeting of the season. Colorado won every single one of those games, and I was going through the box scores as you were saying. It's just like Mikko Rantanen, Nathan McKinnon having big nights every single night. This is a really interesting question, and I was trying to think about this myself. Would you pick Colorado 1 or Tampa 1 in a single entry? To me, oh boy, this one's tough because I think they're both in great spots. I would probably lean Tampa 1 maybe a little bit, just not on the second half of back-to-back. They're on a home ice. They have a better power play matchup. I think they're fairly similar. I would probably go Tampa 1 by a hair, but you said you're playing your flag on Colorado 1. Are you oppo me on this one?
I'm oppo you on this one. Give me Colorado 1 in this spot. You get a little bit of salary relief in terms of
helps.
$900. But $900 can be a difference maker when you're building your lineup. So I think especially with the low ownership coming in on Colorado 1 from a full stack perspective here, when you look at all 3 of these guys, fire me up on Colorado 1 in this spot.
Yeah, splitting hairs there for sure. They're the number 1 and 2 ranked line tonight. Any interest in Minnesota for you? I don't really love the ownership coming in there. I think I'd rather play some of these other higher owned lines, so I'm going to play the chalk.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Blackwood has also struggled against the Wild in his career. But in the same breath, he's been on some bad teams, right? And he's looked absolutely tremendous here since joining Colorado. Like I said, I think I'm going to have maybe a little bit of ownership on Minnesota 1, like maybe 5%. But I think this is a spot that I'm going to leverage coming in well under the field on Minnesota.
Mackenzie Blackwood, since joining the Avs, is 7-1-1 with a 169 goals against average and a 938 save percentage. It's just been unbelievable. St. Louis and the Anaheim Ducks. So we are a duo that have played a lot of St. Louis as of late. We avoided them the other night, and they ended up being in a bit of a track meet against the Wild, which was unexpected. Tonight they faced the Ducks, who are not very good defensively. Unless Beebs has seen something since we've come live, we haven't really seen word. There's a very kind of untrustworthy, I should say, source that is projecting or saying that Troy Terry isn't going to play again tonight. It's not somebody that I would normally take that and run with. So we haven't reported it, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on tonight, whether or not Troy Terry sits out a second straight game after having a baby. So keep that in mind tonight. Regardless, like, I don't have that much interest in the Duck side of things. If Terry plays, though, like, that would increase my interest on that top line. But if he's out, I really probably not buying in too much. Maybe a little bit of Anaheim too. They still project pretty well. But boy, St. Louis 1 and St. Louis 2. I'll need to pull up the actual sample, but the actual sample of Brandon Saad, Robert Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich so far this season is infinitely better than what I have on the charts. And what I have on the charts is still pretty damn good. 3.0 expected goals for per 60, 33 scoring chances. Number one matchup on the entire night. They look like they're in a great spot, especially if you factor in what they've done in a smaller sample so far this season. And then St. Louis 2 is a line that we've liked a lot. Loved the value you get out of them. They project very well. The matchup tonight is extremely good for them as well. The underlying metrics have been very, very strong. So St. Louis 2 actually grades out better, 11th best overall. St. Louis 1, 18th best. But if I use the actual sample, the smaller sample, St. Louis 1 would probably grade out better. So both about $14,000, both drawing a fair amount of ownership tonight. But St. Louis 1 actually about half is owned as St. Louis 2. Who would you prefer tonight as I pull up the actual St. Louis 1 data?
Boy, talk about splitting hairs, man. I really like both of these lines here. Can I just say both? Because I really like them both quite a bit. I mean, if I did have to pick one, I think I'd probably lean a little bit more towards St. Louis 1. You're getting less ownership there, 5% for a full stack versus 9.1 on the second line. You got an ever so slightly better matchup score here. You know, 100 matchup score. You don't see that a whole lot. You don't see that very often versus 92.4. Again, we're kind of splitting hairs here, but I think if I had to pick one, gun to my head, probably give me St. Louis 1.
So this is one that is probably more of a late slate play when you find out if Terry's in, because it's going to be a lot of Anaheim 1 versus St. Louis 1 tonight. And that St. Louis 1 line, as good as they've been offensively, have just been getting torched. It's like the highest event hockey in history. They've been getting torched defensively. They've actually given up 4.3 goals against per 60. So this sample's 53 minutes. It's too small for the charts, but it's still sizable enough to kind of lean into. 4.0 expected goals for per 60, 3.4 expected goals against, 41 scoring chances for, 36 scoring chances against. It's been just fire wagon hockey when St. Louis 1 is on the ice. So if Troy Terry's back, I actually don't mind Anaheim 1. It'll be more of a late slate just because it's like, I don't think he's playing. But man, St. Louis 1, if they can continue to generate 4.0 expected goals for per 60 in the 100% matchup score, they look like they're in a dynamite spot tonight at just 5% ownership. And then, as you mentioned, St. Louis 2 in a good spot as well, coming in a little bit more expensive and a little bit higher owned as well. So, yeah, I agree with you. I like both. Do you have interest in the Ducks? Like, we've talked about this second line. You know, McTavish was a solid play the other night. Fabry's been solid. The matchup's not that great tonight. I probably won't play a ton of them, maybe more late slate. They grade out 23rd overall at 9,900.
Yeah, I've got some interest in them. I think I'll be mixing them into the player pool. They were successful for me the other night, playing them as a really cheap value play. And I don't mind getting down there again here tonight. $9,900. They're really cheap. Fabry in his career against St. Louis, 4 games played, 5 goals and 6 points. Mason McTavish, a goal, 3 points in 5 games. So, yeah, fire me up on some Anaheim 2 tonight. Don't think that I'll be getting too crazy there. Maybe mixing a little Anaheim 1 there too, just because of those
breaking news. So Beebs didn't drop it in the chat, but he did message me privately that said Troy Terry remains in California and will not be playing this evening. So he is out. That takes Anaheim 1 kind of out of the mix for me. So Congrats to the Terrys on the new baby, but Troy Terry will not be playing again this evening. So I guess untrustworthy source becomes trustworthy source. Congratulations. Okay, final game of the night. Actually, really quickly, power plays in this game. St. Louis has the 15th ranked power play. The Ducks PK, to their credit, has been quite good. Their power play has been horrendous. So moving on, we've got the Vegas Golden Knights and the New York Islanders. 3.4 implied total for the Vegas Golden Knights, -167 home favorites against the Islanders. Matchups in this game pretty good on the Vegas side of things, pretty bleak on the Islanders side of things. Islanders will have some kind of new look lines that are very different than kind of the norm and what we've seen out of them. Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, Matthew Barzal, kind of just all the OGs together on one line. Then you got Duclair, Horvat, Palmieri, Siplikov, Pajot, Suzuki on the on the third line. The Golden Knights don't give us a whole heck of a lot in terms of matchups to kind of break down. But what we do know is that top line dominates every game and scores every game. The second line dominates every game, doesn't score every game. They break my heart continuously. They both look like they're in good spots again tonight. Vegas 1 grades out 8th best, 19,800, seeing fairly modest ownership. Vegas 2 projects 20th overall at $14,900, low ownership on them as well. I don't mind getting the over the field here on the Golden Knights' top 2 lines. Fully expecting Vegas 2 to just crush my soul yet again. But they're in a good spot. The matchups are pretty good. I don't really love this Islanders team. I'm not going to play them. I think Aiden Hill's been unbelievable. They're obviously searching for some offense with these new look lines. They haven't played very well as of late. So, I'll probably mix in the top 6 here of the Vegas Golden Knights. I'll be over the field on them because that's obviously very easy to do. Probably 0%. Islanders, they're coming off a 5-4 win against the Bruins. Prior to that, they'd lost 4 of their last 5, not scoring many goals whatsoever. They have been pretty gettable defensively as of late, giving up a ton of goals since basically the middle of December. So opens things up for Vegas tonight at very low ownership. I'm going to continue to fire Eichel up as much as possible. He's been sensational this year. And I think I have to play Vegas too. I'm just obligated to at this point because I've played them so much with no results that the minute I stop playing them, they're gonna just nuke a slate. So they've been so dominant. I just can't get away. I'm addicted. I'm a sicko.
Yeah, no kidding, man. I've got some interest here in the Vegas side of things. I'll keep this short and sweet because I know we're getting a little crunch for time here. But I agree with you on this Vegas side of things in the top 6. I'll be meeting the field on the ownership here, maybe a little bit over top on Vegas 1, grading out as the 8th best line to target. Plus, that way, too, you got a little bit of a late night sweat going on here because this game starts at 10 o'clock Eastern and the last games before that starting at 8 Eastern. So let's see if Vegas can blow up a slate here with the lone late game.
Against the Sharks the other night, again, not a great example, but that top line was just so dominant. Outshot the Sharks 10-0, 22 shot attempts. They were great, 10 scoring chances. But don't forget the second line. They generated 11 scoring chances, 6 high danger chances. Just another great night for Vegas too. Coming away with basically no results until Tomas Hertl scored an empty netter. Power play in this game, not great for either side. The Vegas Golden Knights power play, though, not bad. 15th best, going up against a terrible PK, but neither one of these teams takes very many penalties whatsoever. So doesn't look like necessarily a very high-scoring game, and Vegas looks okay. Let's get to the defenseman. We will sort by value here. Brent Burns back up on the top power play unit. I think he's hit the shot block bonus in 2 of his last 3 games. He's got 8 shot blocks in his last 3 games at 4K. Looks like a really, really good value option tonight. Fabro, Provorov look okay. I don't mind them. Keandre Miller is always kind of one of my favorites, around $2,700. Always grades out pretty well. Declan Chisholm should play a ton tonight at $2,700. Also probably moving to top power play unit. Don't love that matchup for the Wild as a whole, but I think Chisholm is a nice value option. Brett Pesce, obviously, always great. Anybody else that really sticks out to me? Let me sort here by top power play unit. Who's our cheapest top power play unit guy? Oh my goodness, that didn't work at all. We've got Brent Burns at 4K, Declan Chisholm 27, Justin Falk back kind of on that top. Actually, let me bring up those Blues power play units because they did shuffle them around, and it makes things a little different. So now basically if you're playing PP or St. Louis 2, you want to pair them with Falk. If you're playing St. Louis 1, you want to pair them with Cam Fowler. I like him again tonight. I like Falk tonight too. Who do you like on the blue line tonight, Zach?
Yeah, I like some of those cheap Minnesota Wild defensemen here. Zach Bogosian,
Yeah.
$2,500. I think he's in a pretty good spot. Going to see a lot of ice time tonight. Blocks a fair amount of shots, 5.1 per hour. I think he's a guy who will be live for the bonus. Braden Schneider, $2,600. His salary continues to drop despite, being a Brett Pesce light sort of out there. 4.4 shots on goal per hour over his last 26 blocks per hour. So you're getting some really solid value there from him. I like the Brent Burns shout up there as well. Darnell Nurse at $4,700 continues to find a way to get there, paying off value wise, projecting for around 10% ownership tonight. I like him on this slate.
Let's move over to the goalies. Stuart Skinner grades out as number one goalie to target tonight. I got a ton of interest in Andre Vasilevsky at $7,900. I think going down from some of those more expensive goalies to get to Vasilevsky makes a lot of sense. Like that matchup with the Bruins. Aiden Hill, though, is probably the one guy that I would consider among those very expensive goalies. Like I said, don't really trust the Islanders. Aiden Hill's been unbelievable. So if you're going to pay up, I think Aiden Hill's the guy I would pay up for. Mackenzie Blackwood, don't mind him at $8,100. Don't know how much shot volume he's going to see. Joseph Woll projected to be the highest owned goalie on the slate, projected to see the most shots on goal as well. So going to get a lot of volume. He's been playing pretty well, $7,400. Not the worst matchup, or not the best matchup, excuse me, but the Hurricanes have been struggling a little bit offensively as of late. If you want to go dumpster diving, I don't mind Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, to be honest. I also don't really mind. That's probably it. Maybe Dostal at $6,900. The Blues are obviously been playing better, but they're probably not a team in which you should be $6,900.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And one thing that's interesting about Dostal here too is that his splits on the road have actually been better than they are at home. At home, he's averaging 11.5 DraftKings points per game. On the road, 16.9. Save percentage at home, 900. Save percentage on the road, 928. So
lock him in.
Yeah, I don't mind that whatsoever, getting down there to the Dost wall. I like the shout on Andre Vasilevsky. He's probably my favorite goaltender on the slate here tonight. Joseph Woll looks like he's in a good spot. Joey Decord looks like he might return from injury tonight. I think he's a fairly solid play against the Blue Jackets here tonight as well.
Since the beginning of December, Andre Vasilevsky is 7-4 with a .924 save percentage. So he's been great. Okay, a couple things to get to really quickly before we go. If you want to participate in today's hat trick pick challenge, drop your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. But we're going to start something new tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. We're going to start every Friday giving away a $50 gift card to Nation Gear to just a random subscriber to the YouTube channel. So we'll be giving away $50 tomorrow. You can pick up some DFO swag if you do so. So smash the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. We're going to be giving away $50 on Friday. And you can do whatever you so choose with that at nationgear.ca. Also, as always, shout out to our friends at rotogrinders.com for providing projected ownership for tonight's show. Couldn't do it without them. If you want to get $20 off your first month of NHL Premium at rotogrinders.com, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of the video on YouTube. After you smash the like button, of course, and then also you can join the DFO DFS Discord. We're talking DFS in there all day long. Got a lot of smart guys in there, men and women. And we also will be providing all the late breaking news, whether it's lineup changes, whether it's injuries. We'll make sure that you don't have any holes in your lineup. So join the DFO DFS Discord as well. Without further ado, let's get to today's daily face-off, our head-to-head lineup challenge. I won yesterday, but what did you say? 0.0 or 0.4 points?
Yeah, 0.4 points.
You're welcome for that. 27-25 on the season. I went with New Jersey 2. Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt, but also have Stefan Nation up there for the power play correlation. Just love the value you get out of him at $4,400. Then I went with a Leon Draisaitl, Victor Arvidsson mini stack. I had Pud Colson in there initially, but I just really think that you get a tremendous amount of value with Adam Fantilli at $3,200. Probably going to see 20 minutes tonight. Feel better about him. A couple $100 more expensive than Pud Colson. And then Brent Burns looks like a great value option as well. 4K, too easy to get there. Same with Brett Pesce at $3,000. And then $7,900 Andre Vasilevsky between the pipes for me. Who do you got, Zach? And why is it all Edmonton Oilers?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty. Do you have to really ask the question?
So true.
Edmonton Oilers onslaught here. Admittedly, I didn't have a ton of time to like really dive into this slate super heavily, but I know that I like the Edmonton Oilers here tonight, so I loaded up the top 6 here. You get some power play correlation with Draisaitl, McDavid, and Nuge up there too. Victor Arvidsson's just been so solid since returning from injury. Wanted to get some of this Devils action in here too. Wanted to go with the second line, couldn't quite fit them in salary wise, so. Nico Hischier, Stefan Nation, welcome to the team, boys. Let's get her going. Zach Bogosian, Braden Schneider on the blue line. A couple of really cheap value plays here tonight. Also taking some of that ownership down for this lineup as a whole, and Joseph Wall in the crease. Shout out to Jim B in the chat. There's not enough Oilers in that lineup. Look, if I could put more in right now, I think that I would, but I can't, so I won't.
Also, shout out to Zach Bogosian, who also spells Zach the right way, as you mentioned on the show the other day. James picks Mishkov for his hat trick pick, but just a reminder, James, make sure you drop it in the comment section, not the live chat, if you want to be entered in to win that gift card. Okay, let's get to our hat trick picks tonight. No Alexander Ovechkin for us this evening. My hat trick pick, I will go with... Give me Jack Hughes. Too easy.
Nice. Let's go Connor McDavid.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Just a reminder, I will be riding solo tomorrow. Zach, enjoy your weekend. We will see you back on Monday. One more show to do tomorrow. Good luck tonight. Hopefully you return with more money in your bankroll tomorrow than you had tonight. Until then, cheers.
Cheers.